Okay, we're going to call the Committee of a Whole to order. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Bell?
Here.
Trustee Brewer?
Here.
Trustee Grant?
Here.
Trustee Joseph?
Here.
Trustee Todd?
Here.
Trustee Williams?
Here.
Okay, I'll accept the motion to go into executive session for personnel matters. Moved by Trustee Bell, second by Trustee Grant. Any questions? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Brewer?
Yes.
Trustee Grant?
Yes.
Trustee Joseph?
Yes.
Trustee Todd? Yes. Trustee Williams?
Yes.
Trustee Bell?
Yes.
Motion is carried. All right, I'll accept a motion to reconvene back to committee meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Trustee Bell, second by Trustee Brewer. Oh, I don't need to call the roll because this is a committee meeting. Okay, next item is just for discussion is the forensic audit by Interim Director Anthony Finch. Oh, I told you what I was supposed to do.
Good evening, Board, Mayor, Madam Clerk. Just briefly, I think toward the end of last year, I mentioned to you all about doing a forensic audit. I'm in favor of doing a forensic audit. I think we should go ahead and start at least the process of getting some bids. I have two at the present time of companies that have experience doing forensic audit. Hopefully by Friday, I'll have another company that will give me pricing on their forensic audit. I know a few months ago we did do an RFP, so at this time I don't think we need to do another RFP. So hopefully within the next week, if not 2 weeks, I'll be presenting to you all 3 individual firms, and then you guys can make a decision on if we're gonna go with the forensic audit, as well as if we're gonna go on a forensic audit, and which of the 3 firms you guys would like to go with. And that's pretty much all I have regarding the forensic audit, if there's any questions.
Well, I got some questions. So with the forensic audit, I guess number one is, I'm assuming you're gonna do this next budget, right? Because this one's pretty much, it wasn't budgeted for.
Correct.
Okay. And then when we did the RFP the first time, like there was never really like a scope of work that was put together. So like it never said, we want you to look at this. It was kind of really vague in general. So I think we need to like tailor it down. And also, I guess the third thing is how many years back are we gonna go? Because that's gonna determine the cost, basically. So
my recommendation, just off cutting you off, one of the firms that I did contact sent me over what they call an intake form, and I can scan that before I leave tonight and let you guys see it. And one of the questions they do ask is briefly describe your suspicion of potential fraud. So that's to answer your point. They want to know what the scope of work is going to be, so it's not so broad, because then they'd be on a wild goose chase pretty much. Right. The other part of that, if we do it within the next budget, we do got to get started, because there's going to be information they're going to want to gather. So yes.
So how many years back do you think?
Oh, years back, I want to do 16, 17, no, 16, 17, yeah, 16, 17, 17, 18, 18, 19. And then hopefully, by the time they get down to 18, 19, with any other issue, they can do 19, 20.
So
But at least I want to start with 16.
So only 3 years?
3 years at least.
Why not go back further?
The card is what I recommend. We haven't done the 1920 audit, so that year right now is really irrelevant. But I do want to go back at least 3 to 4 year period in the window. So it'll be 15, 16, 16, 17, 17, 18, but at least a 3 year period, if not 4. But then keep in mind, the more years we go, the more it's going to cost in total. It doesn't matter if we do 15 to 18 or 16 to 19, at least 3 year period. That way we cover a nice period of time.
Mr. Finch, I have a question.
Yes.
This has been presented to before about the forensic audit. Now, you mentioned before that one of the things that they be looking for is potential fraud, but once the forensic audit was presented before, we weren't actually looking for fraud or anything like that. We just want to make sure that we're doing everything right, the right way, okay? That's one of we're not trying to accuse anybody of doing anything, okay? But, you know, things fall through the crack. You know, people don't know. You have inexperienced people that come on board that do things that, you know, that's not quite kosher. But my thing is that, yes, we need to do this forensic audit. We should have been doing it a long time ago, you know. My thing is that for 3 years, and then it might cost more money to go back. But at least this way, we'll know, and we could feel comfortable about how our finances is done. We'll know what's what, who's doing what, and what we should be looking for the future. I think it's a good idea since you brought it to the board, and I'm hoping the trustees will jump on board and get this done, because we had the finances to go out and look for this money that we have, because there's a lot of mismanagement and not a lot of uncertainties about where the money is. So I'm saying this is a great idea, you know, and I'm hoping you pursue it, and I look forward to working with it.
But
Go ahead,
can I just respond? So, Trustee Brewer, so in regards to doing things right in our finances, you know, we have auditors, so every year we do an audit. So, I mean, they're the ones who should be telling us whether we're doing something right or wrong. If you're going to make a case for a forensic audit, that means that we're saying we think there is something wrong, check into this area for us. We're saying there's a problem. So our normal everyday financial business, they will hopefully catch those things in the audit, which then we don't have to do a forensic audit. But we're telling them that, yeah, we think there was some opportunity, that there could have been something that went wrong, so can you look into this for us? There's a difference. So I just wanted to clear that up.
And
Well,
that-
and
and that's
I
what I'm
just
saying,
wanted-
what
yeah.
Trustee Graham was saying. There is a different, the essence of the forensic audit is we suspect suspicious activity. So they are looking for improper action being done. The auditors are the ones that should say the systems are not, the internal systems are not properly in place, i.e. internal controls, segregation of duties, and all those things. That's why they give you at the end of the audit a management discussion and analysis report to go and explain all the inefficiencies that they found. That's different than a forensic audit. So a forensic audit, they will be looking for improper action as far as moving money around or anything like that that was hidden from the actual auditors that Sauk Village has. So it's two different type of audit.
Oh, I understand there's two different audits, but I'm just saying I'm in agreement. This is something we have been sort of on the same page with ever since I started in May of 2017. We know we have financial problems. We know there's a lot of not going on with the money that trustees are not aware of. We know a lot of money is being moved around and trustees are not being aware of. This is stuff that we know. So my point is that we welcome the forensic audit, you know, so we can find out, just make us feel better about the finances and how it's done, you know, because this way, another thing that a lot of us trustees could be educated on what we actually should be doing, you know, looking at monies and getting grants and all this sort of stuff, things that's been happening all the time that trustees think they have been getting a handle of, and that's the way they're doing it, but that's not actually the way it should be done. You know, the procedure has to be changed. Trustees need to know where the money is, and we can't do that without an audit. You know, it's just as simple as that. And I welcome a forensic audit.
Question. Mr. Finch, when I spoke with you last week, number one, you said the forensic audits, they take a long time. So here's my questions. You're going to bring us 3 quotes.
Yes.
Okay, could you find out when you can anticipate getting them started, if we do decide on which company we're going to go with, if we have to make any payment up front? Because personally, I'd rather see the forensic audit started sooner rather than later. And I believe we talked about budgeting 1 audit this year and maybe the 2nd audit and the 3rd audit in the next budget, or possibly into the next 2 budgets, depending. Because how long did you say a forensic audit actually takes to perform?
I'd say for at least 1 year, you got at least 6 months.
So 6 months to a year is how long 1 forensic audit takes. So what we need to do is, in my opinion, I would like to see us move forward as soon as possible after we get those 3 quotes to see if we can get the first audit started in this budget year. And if that means borrowing taking from the reserve or taking from the line of credit, I'm prepared to get that started as soon as possible. So I don't want to put this off personally any longer than we have to, because it takes, like you said, 6 months to a year per year. As far as how many years are we going to do, if we do the last 3 years and we need to go back further, then we'll know when we do these 3 years. We've been without a finance director. We've had finance directors come and go. We had one leave on 2 days' notice. We have financial records that are so far behind, and then we had to bring account temps in to bring our bank recs up to speed. We don't know that our financial records are anywhere near in the order they need to be. So personally, I'm in favor of you bringing back the 3 and getting started this budget year as soon as possible. That's my opinion.
Any other questions? All right, thank you.
Okay, standing committee requirements, Clerk Margaret Cameron-Pruitt.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I put in your meeting package the ordinance 19-018 that was ratified July 23rd, 2019. The reason I put that in your packet, and we are discussing it at this moment, is because I was asked to show proof of where does it state that trustees, in order to be reimbursed for your committee meetings, that you needed to submit that document along with your agenda. So, in this particular ordinance, it lays it all out for those of you who needed the clarification. Not only does it do that, it tells you each of your committees that you have, your composition, and the roles of. But what we're going to talk about more so, that is more aligned to the question for proof that I was asked, if you would look at number 4, under notice requirements. These are things that everyone's not doing, the majority of you are doing, but things that needs to be done. Notice requirements, all meetings will be published at the beginning of each calendar year, as soon as practical. Just as we approve the meeting of the corporate authorities in January, each one of you are supposed to submit your entire calendar, day, month, time, and all of that, of your meetings. That's the notice requirement. Everything else I think you know. The report to the village board. The standing committee will provide the village board with a brief written overview of the items discussed from time to time. Each standing committee will prepare an annual written report given to the mayor on the activities of their committee, and you're to do that within the first quarter of each year. You know about having public comments, meeting date and times. That's basically a duplicate of number 4 to me. So, now let's go to number 10. Each chairperson shall, as soon as minutes are approved, deposit with the village clerk a signed copy of the minutes of each meeting and copy of the agenda. Okay? And so some things are not legislated by ordinances and resolutions. Sometimes we do things by best practice and procedure, past practice, what we've been doing. What was done when I came on board was there was a form that trustees had to complete right before payday that lists the date of their meeting, and at the bottom of it, it says, please attach your agenda. We talked about your submitting your minutes from time to time, just as it said. But for certain, you have to have your agenda. So that's where I got that from. And just to go a little step further, because what's not in the ordinance, and I don't want you to call me on it, but I need you to know that when I say past practice and procedure, I gave you a packet tonight that had about 8 or 9 pages. The very first 4 pages are copies of emails, either from me to you, regarding your committee meetings, and this dates back to June 1st, 2017, when some of us first came on board, but then when the new ones came, the rest of you came on, we talked about it as well. And that is that your request for reimbursement for your committee meetings must accompany your agenda, but your agendas need to be posted in Village Hall 48 hours, just like regular Open Meetings Act, okay? That's where all of that comes from. Now let's go into the 5th page, because then on the 5th page is a copy of the new trustees' orientation. And during that orientation, I provided the payroll dates, for which we are working on getting you a sheet of that so that you would know exactly when your reimbursement forms need to be turned in. But topics of conversation were your committees, payroll dates, and what was needed for committee meeting reimbursement. So it's very, very consistent that your agendas need to be posted in Village Hall 48 hours prior to your meeting, and then when you submit for reimbursement, you have to attach the agenda. Are there any questions there? Okay, there's some other items that's in that pack that some of you asked to go on the agenda that you'll be presenting, and some of this will go along with that just to help clarify what the process and procedures are for the village. That concludes my report, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the next item, abandoned and vacant property solutions. Community Director Tanya McCoy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have some documents that I want to hand out to everyone so that you can take a look at them while I'm talking about the different solutions.
No, one was nuisance, the other's abatement. Abandoned. You give them 3, it's 3 different?
Then you don't have, she doesn't have the sample left. What you need, you got? Here you go.
Thank you. I appreciate you.
Okay, so you guys have a couple of documents in front of you. The Community Development Department has been working very diligently on finding solutions for the abandoned and vacant properties here in Sauk Village. One of the solutions that we have been considering is actually working with Habitat for Humanities and the faith-based community. The guy from Habitat came out again today to explain more about the program and what they really want to do in Sauk Village. They want to start with the 2 houses currently owned by the village, and then fixing the houses around those houses. So anybody who owns a home that's around the subject house, they would like to, get a new roof or, really fix up the outside of those properties as well. They also talked about having champions in each, like I guess, district. I don't know how you guys set up here or how we can set something up where we can have like a champion for each area that we're looking to make the changes in, and really developing a real community revitalization program. So Habitat for Humanity is working with the faith-based communities. That's one solution. The other solution that you have in front of you, I went to talk to the people over in Chicago Heights, and they have a couple of programs. One is the abandonment program where they go in, and if you see a vacant property and you're interested in it, their model is we give them $5,000 and then they can then start the process to allowing the village to own that property and then deed it over to the person who actually put the money down. And that's for their residential properties, and then for the commercial properties it's $10,000. And I know for us, we really want to get the properties in the hands of people who are actually going to redevelop them, but we also want to, make a little bit of money for the village to support some of our community development activities that we are considering for this year. So I don't know if that's something we could play around with as far as the amount. Maybe we could start the vacant residential properties at 10. And that way the village would get get 5,000, and 5,000 would go to actually obtaining the property and to, so we can get it so we can convey it. And then commercial properties at 20. So the village would get 10 or 15, and then the other 5 would go towards actually us obtaining the property. So that's something that we can kind of play around with, but I think it's something that would really allow investors to come in and make a big difference. Now, Habitat is strictly or mostly for home ownership. So it's owner occupied, and then the other ones, I don't know, maybe there's a program that we could put forth that we could begin with people who are actually going to live in the properties and have them owner occupied, and then, if that doesn't work, then we go to the investors. But it's something that we can play around with. Those examples that you have actually have their ordinances in the example, so that you can take a look. Now, Chicago Heights is into how we can do things here. But that's something that we can explore. So in another thing, some of the houses is just we can't repair. So we're going to have to demo them. So that's another approach that we're going to have to utilize in this effort to revitalize the communities. So we're going to demolition, work with the nonprofit Habitat and faith-based community, the abandonment property program, and they also have a nuisance property program, and that's if you have a vacant lot basically attached to your property that's not being maintained. you can then say, okay, I would want to acquire this lot and maintain the lot while we get the lot so that you can actually own the lot. But it'll put the lot back on the tax roll and make the village look a lot better being maintained. So those are the approaches and solutions that I've come up with to really start to revitalize and really get our hands around the vacant and abandoned properties. You guys have any questions? This sheet right here is, we looked at this sheet as phase 1, which kind of coincide with the Carroll and Peterson Street, Peterson Avenue beautification program. And believe it or not, the properties that the village owns are actually in this area.
I do have a question. Are we have homes right now that are ready to be demolished, demoed, and getting those ready to be demoed this year? How many homes do we have that?
Well, we have several, but we've started, I think back in September, you had 3 on the list that needed to be demoed, but since we are starting with the Carroll and Peterson Avenue revitalization, we've identified at least 5 in that area that are ready to come down, and that's going to allow not only for beautification, but also it'll help with crime, it'll help with, just a bunch of things that could really be useful for the community to have done with those houses being demoed.
I have a quick question. The grant that we had gotten,
IDNR?
whatever it was, I thought there was going to be, they had the grass cutting, but I thought also included in there, you wanted to have two houses demolished?
Well, as much as
2 or
the
3,
grant would take.
was that ever done?
No, that was not done yet.
So there's still money left in there?
Yeah, we should have some money left in the grant.
Does that grant expire at any time?
It does. We did, the grant expires, I believe, May, and then the following year, we pick up another $75,000.
These houses, are they demolishable or are they repairable?
So any houses that are repairable, we don't want to take them down. So they're ones that are definitely need to be demolished.
So the ones that are demolished, are the foundations and the footings, are they good or no?
Not that, I'm not quite sure, but I don't think they're good.
I'm just saying, because those are row houses, so you guys.
They are, but the ones that we're talking about are all connected that need to come down.
Ms. McCoy,
Yes.
there's a property at 2113 Poplar, and we've been trying to, do something with that property for years. I know it caught on fire back in 2009, and in fact, they had somebody trying to rent the property out. It's foreclosed on now. It's a health and safety issue where the house is because it's halfway burned down, has mold all on the outside and everything. And I know we talked about this before in previous meetings, and something was supposed to be done about it, but today nothing has been done. So can you take a look at that and tell me what's going on with it? 2113 Popular.
Yes, and if you guys-
you should know that one. It's been around for a while.
Yeah, I don't know that one.
No.
Okay, so if you guys have properties in your area that you feel like need to be demoed, if you would just send it to me so that we could take a look at it, because the grant is not going to cover every property, but it will cover some, especially some of the ones that look like they're caving in.
Yeah, that's one of the things on Popular.
Yeah. So, and if you have them, just let me know and we'll take a look at it. The other thing that I want to mention was the land bank. We also want to work with the land bank. Russ from South Suburban Land Bank came, we had a conversation, and I do know that we need to, modify our resolution so that the resolution includes positions instead of a person, so that we'll always have someone to represent the village on the land bank's board. But that's another one of the actual solutions is working with the land bank.
Any other questions? Thank you, Ms. McCoy.
All right, thank you, guys.
Before you go, could you kind of give the board when you get a chance, of the average cost to demo a building from soup to nuts?
30,000
To demo,
to demo.
Demo and take it away.
To take it
30,000?
out, 30,000.
Okay.
That's the average.
Foundation, everything.
Yeah, 30,000.
Thank you. Okay, move right along. Review unsolved service agreement and code red, trustee Debbie Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I put in everybody's box over the weekend the unsolved service agreement. That's code red. I did some investigating and found out that this contract was approved on March 26, 2019. If you look at page 2 of 4 of the service agreement, which is the first agreement, that shows the date that it was approved. If you look further into Exhibit A, and then you see Exhibit B, 1 of 6 on Exhibit B on the second page, number 4, term and termination. It says that this contract is going to automatically renew if it's not canceled within 30 days of the date that it was initially agreed to, which is March 26th. In my opinion, I don't think Code Red has gone beyond the initial period. I don't know anyone who's gotten any notifications or dings on this. And if you look at the actual cost of the Code Red, it was $3,500. So in my opinion, I think just like we had Mr. Williams stop the Sauk contract, which was basically the same thing, where we spent money for services that we did not receive, I think we should direct Mr. Williams prior to February 25th to contact Onsolve and cancel this agreement.
Well, Madam Clerk, I think we talked about this maybe, I don't know, a couple meetings ago. Did you mention that not everybody was willing to do their part when it comes to code red, so that's the reason why it hasn't went forward yet?
Yes.
Yes, sir, trustee, that is what I said. I think that the company has been very diligent in making contact with the village on a regular basis, at least twice a month, asking if our staff was willing to be trained at this point again, if they need to be retrained, blah, 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 blah. I think that when the new trustees, and I need to stop saying new trustees, but when trustees came in May, I attended a public safety committee meeting, and we decided, and Trustee Williams was there too because she volunteered to work with Code Red as well. And we identified who really needed the training and who would really be responsible for reaching out to me and the residents so that I could reach out to the residents when there is an issue. That's the piece that never happened. That's the same thing that happened with the website piece. And as I shared before, I would think that if this board voted on a program, a process, procedure, whatever you would want to call it, then it should not be left to staff whether or not they were going to implement it or not. You guys are the ones that make that determination and that decision. So did I come back and tell on them regularly? No. Did I send them reminders from time to time? Yes, I did. So just to not do it because our department heads refuse to follow an ordinance, to me, that's not justifiable. Because then if that's the case, they could take any ordinance that you guys vote on, and you spend all of this time researching and making that determination, and then if they decide they don't want to do it, they just blow it off. And it's not happening. And I think at some point in time, we have to stop this and insist that our leadership here in the village accommodate what the trustees feel is best for the safe interest of our residents. So it is on us as well.
So Trustee Williams, I don't think this is a Code Red problem. This is obviously our problem, and I would think that we should ask the village administrator to direct his department heads to get on board with this. This is something that we have paid for and passed. I know that the one-year agreement is coming up, but I mean, if it's something that we agreed that we needed at some point in time, I think that we should do our part and have the department heads do their part so that way, but this can be useful for everybody. And not just say we're gonna get rid of it, because obviously there is a need for it.
If I can respond, the two contracts, the Sauk contract and the Onsolve contract, were both approved by the previous administration. And who was put in place to make sure that the things got followed up on and that the department heads did their job, that I have nothing to do with that. But I know for a fact that the website hasn't had changes since 2017, and this contract for the website was actually approved, and we had the village administrator cancel that contract before it auto-renewed. This is just the same instance, regardless to why it didn't happen, there hasn't been anything happening. If it's the department heads, whose responsibility was it to make sure that the department heads were doing their job? And the fact that if we let this auto-renew, whose responsibility is it going to be to make sure the department heads follow through? We can continue this contract. We won't have any choice if we don't eliminate this contract. We're going to continue it with another $3,500. If the village administrator is going to be his job to make sure that the department heads follow through, that's fine. It's a great program. I'm not saying Code Red is a problem. What I'm saying is we paid $3,500 and we haven't used it. Just like we paid $2,400 for the website and we didn't use it. So I'm just bringing it to the attention of the board, because once March 26th hits, we don't have a choice. Whether the department heads are led to do the right thing or not, we're going to be paying another $3,500. So the board can do as they wish. My job was to bring it to your attention.
Okay, so what I can do is have this put on the agenda for next week. Ask if it be voted on by the board to terminate the Onsolve service agreement, which is known as Code Red.
No, I mean, Mr. Mayor, I don't think, well, that's not my solution. I think that we need to ask the village administrator to make sure that the department heads are on board with this before we do decide to terminate it. I mean, at least give them a chance, because they report to him, and give them a chance to get 30 days, 60 days to get it right. I understand that might be past our one-year agreement date, and we will have to eat that, but he has a task to get them on board and do what they have to do to use this tool.
Well, what's stated is, you're right, it's March
26th, I think.
26th, so we have 30 days, which will be February 26th.
Right.
So you have another 2 weeks, so, okay, we can find out and give this task to the village administrator to see if, because it is involving the department heads. Okay.
Mr. Mayor, and just to add to that, even if we were to cancel it before it automatically renews, now that we know what the problem was, why it didn't work the first time, we could always go back to Code Red at another time and start a new agreement. I don't think that our agreement is contingent on following agreements back to back. We have 2 weeks to make sure that we can put something in order that we haven't put in order in a year. My thing is, if we can cancel it, and this is just my opinion, if we haven't instituted it in a year, we're going to give the village administrator 2 weeks now to institute it. What we could do is we could cancel this agreement and go back. Now, I don't know if the costs have changed. I don't know what the ramifications behind that is, but all I'm just wanting to make sure is if we don't cancel within the next 2 or 3 weeks, then we're already into the next agreement. Or we could cancel it and start a new one, whatever the board chooses.
What we can do is make it mandatory, because this is something that was put in at the time, make it mandatory, that we get input from the department heads. It's not that hard to do, but you're right, if we cancel now, that price may have changed.
Right.
And you never know what it may be, or, you know, so I would say, my thinking would be, give it to the village administrator, let him bring it in his meetings that he has with the department heads and implement that. Okay. And then go forth with that.
So, Mr. Mayor, who should follow up with the village administrator, because he's not here now, but who should follow with him on that?
Okay, I'll talk to him. Okay, agenda items and placement order. I said agenda items and placement order. Code Red and Unsolved, the same thing. No, she just mentioned Sauk, but Sauk's not on the agenda.
Just want everybody to see.
Okay, agenda item and placement order, trustee Deborah Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Couple of things I wanted to talk about. Number one, the placement order of the agenda. I noticed that as of, I think it was like April of 2018, general comments from the Board of Trustees and the mayor has been deleted from the board agenda. And I know it's uncomfortable during board reports on a board meeting agenda. When we're giving our board reports, we also have to make our general comments. I think our board reports should be specifically relating to our committees, so people take advantage of what our committees are doing. But oftentimes, we should also be able to comment on other things, like we used to be able to do under general comments. That's been removed from the agenda, just as it's been removed from this agenda. If you notice, if you don't have an opportunity to discuss one of the discussion items, as a trustee, you have no opportunity to present comment. There is public comment, but there's no comment from the trustees and the mayor. And what happens oftentimes is when we get to the end of the board agenda, the trustees don't have a place to comment, but the mayor can't comment. And that's not on the agenda, so that's like a violation of the Open Meetings Act if you're not going to follow the agenda. So I think we either need to bring back general comments from the trustees and the mayor, or we just need to, when we get to the last item on the board agenda, go straight into adjournment. And also relating to this, as far as agenda items, I've asked before that we move executive session to the end of the agenda rather than the front of the agenda, and make that the place where it always is, and then only have to change the order of executive session if there's action to be taken. Just like there was tonight, where we went in for a few minutes, supposedly, and we were in executive session for 40 minutes. And I think that if we would have left it at the end of the agenda, that would have been fine. We could have had our business done and residents could leave, and then we would go in executive session. There's no action to be taken. But we have it at the beginning of our board meeting agenda, and oftentimes there's like the motion to move it is not stated properly, and now we have to stumble through that, when 9 times out of 10 what we're going into executive session for, there's not requiring any action. So I've asked this before, I'm putting it on record again, that I think as a rule, we should move motion to recess to executive session at the end of the agenda and bring it up on the agenda if there's action to be taken. And that's all I have to say on that. Thank you.
Okay, first of all, you made mention that there's nothing on this agenda for the comments for the trustees. You turn the page over at the back, it says that. General comments from mayor and trustees.
Well, I apologize, Mr. Mayor, I didn't see that.
Okay, I didn't.
I apologize.
Okay, well, let me finish. I didn't say anything.
I'm glad to see that. Thank you.
Second of all, the reason, and it's always been this way since I've been a trustee here, that executive session is in the beginning, because a lot of times you have items there that require people that are actually on the clock getting paid to be present for those agenda items. I'm sorry, for those executive session. And sometimes you may not need that person there anytime, but that, and you're right, if we had an executive session today at the end and we had the lawyers here to do that, to wait until the end to do that, they're getting paid until we get through with this whole agenda and we can get them in and out at that particular time. That was the reason, and that's one of the reasons why you vote in the beginning. But I think we're gonna have to have I don't know if it's a class, a school, or whatever, how to remove items off the agenda and how to put them in place. In other words, how that motion is actually presented to change the order of the particular agenda item or the agenda at that particular time. As far as the time consuming, I mean, we're here every meeting, I don't know about, to conduct business. And when you conduct business, it shouldn't be arguments. It shouldn't be whatever that happens. It shouldn't happen. We should conduct business, vote on the things, yes, up or down, move on. The comments you can have or the questions you should have before this happens. Not come at the time that we have the meeting and ask 100 questions that you could ask prior to that. So I'm sorry that the people have to sit here and listen, but it is business. We're taking care of business. I don't know, sometimes we need to take a look, some of us as trustees and mayor, and go to some of these villages and see just how that happens. Some of them do sit there and argue for 2 hours. Some of them conduct business and move on. And if you have questions, that's why the agenda, I thought, would be handed out ahead of time so you can get a chance to ask the question that you need to ask and get clarity at that time, not wait until you have, you know, at the time we get ready to vote on it that I have a question, unless it's something pertinent, but not a discussion. So, I mean, you always have the opportunity to change the agenda or to circumvent the agenda at the time of the meeting. You always have that opportunity. If you want to put it at the end, or if you want to move to have that put at the end, that's the way to do that. It's not something that, you know, that you don't have to do all the time. As far as the comments from the trustees, this is something put back before I was trustee, that the comments would come when you gave your report. That was done prior to I was a trustee when that happened. And I think you were clerk at that time, and that was the reason we gave the report, and then you give your comments at the time for anything it may be. Now, if you want to go back to having on the board meeting nights, because committee meeting is always at the end, but if you want to, but now, one thing about it, we don't have a lot of comments, like tonight for the special meeting was comments only for the special meeting. In town hall, we had that, it would be comments just for that, because those meetings were called for that, only for that purpose. But our committee meetings, you can ask questions, but now, if the board wants to go back and put comments from the trustees at the end of the board meetings, then they can, then if that's the case, then it shouldn't be any comments during, or dissertations, or whatever it is, doing your board report. So if that's what you want to do at the time, and have a special item for trustees' comments at the board meetings, that's fine. But you're not gonna do that during your meeting. If you have questions, quite naturally you ask questions. But if you have something that you want to bring up that's not in regard to your report, then it can be put in here. That's something we can look at.
Mr. Mayor, in regards to what you just said, what I said was that it was removed on the board meeting agenda in April of 2018. It hasn't been on since April of 2018. Yes, I personally would like to see it. And yes, I'm sorry, I didn't notice it on tonight's agenda. I apologize. But yes, on the board meeting agendas, I would like to see it at the end. That's just me personally.
That's something that has to be voted on, and
Okay.
I know, okay, I'm sorry. Right, okay, that's true. It was voted on in 18, I stand
Oh,
corrected.
it was voted on in 18, so, okay,
Yes, it
we
was.
could bring it back
was voted on to
maybe do it
to
differently.
change it, so if they want, if that wants to be voted on, you want that put on the agenda, Madam
Yes, please.
Trustee?
And the last thing I have on that is agenda items. What that means is what does a trustee have to do to get items on the agenda? Because there's a state statute that says if 2 or more trustees wants an agenda item on the agenda, it should be on the agenda. I asked to have something put on the agenda twice, and twice I was told that it could not go on the
Who
agenda.
told you that, Trustee?
What?
That you couldn't put it on the agenda?
Last week I was told I could not put an agenda item on the agenda because it was not under the purview of the trustees.
I'm asking, no, the question I asked you was, who told you?
That I could not do.
Yes.
I got an email from the clerks, and I thought she said, the mayor said it wasn't under the purview of the trustees.
You didn't call me to ask me, because
Well, I have an email from the clerk. I can call it up on my phone if you want me to.
Oh, okay, because I wasn't, okay, because that's what I'm asking you.
I can forward you the email.
My question is, trustees, and it goes to all the trustees, and I'm gonna make this clear. I'm here most of the time. You all have my email address. You email me for everything else. Call me or come by. I see you guys here every time you come in. I'm here. There's nothing wrong with going across the aisle and saying, Mayor, can I talk to you for a minute? But this, I can't talk to him because he argues too much. I can't talk to him because he won't do this. That's a bunch of whatever. That don't even make sense. I'm not a bear or anything like that, but I am not going to sit here and say that, okay, we can't talk to you. Other trustees come in. Trustee Ty comes in, Trustee Jazinski, and Gary Bell comes in all the time.
How often did you see me?
But I see you.
Mr. Mayor, I don't
But
know.
we're not, hold it, I didn't make this a discussion. I'm just saying, trustees have came into my office. Nobody came in except for 2 trustees. I can't talk to you, and I'm gonna talk to you with email. Only thing I'm saying is if there's a question or there's something that you're not clear on, ask. Don't wait until the night, ask. I'm here, ask that question. There's nothing wrong with that. That's all it is.
Mr. Mayor, the
That'll
reason
stop
I
a lot of
asked it to
stuff.
go on the agenda was to ask the question. The
Okay.
clerk every week sends an email
we're going back
to all
again.
the
We're going back and
trustees
forth again.
asking what they want. You took it in an entirely different direction, Mr. Mayor. The clerk sends an email every week asking the trustees, what would you like to see on the agenda? This is the second time I asked for something to go on the agenda in response to the clerk's email. The clerk's email response to me was, the last time that the agenda item I requested will not be on the agenda because the item I wanted to discuss is not under the purview of the trustees per the mayor. Now, I could forward you the emails, but it's the clerk who chose to use email. It's an email from the clerk.
But you
I'm going to
said-
forward you.
but
I'm done with
trustee,
this.
okay.
I'm going to forward you the email.
Okay.
All I'm saying is state statute says if 2 trustees ask for an item to be on the agenda, it must be on the agenda. I will be resubmitting the item that I wanted on the agenda, and I will resubmit it in the form of 2 trustees requesting it, and therefore it will be on the agenda. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Why do you say it like that, trustee?
Because you're arguing with me.
I'm arguing with you. I asked you a question. I'm arguing with you.
I'm done.
Because you're done. Okay.
I'm forwarding the email.
Okay. Rehab policy, trustee Bernice Burrow.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Before you, I put in your package, ordinance, what's the ordinance number? Amending Article 2 of Chapter 78, Utilities of the Village Code. Now, the Ordinance Review Committee and also, I gave everybody, it's in your box. The Ordinance Review Committee and also the attorney and Public Works, all those got together and we went back and forth with this particular ordinance 2 or 3 times. So what we came up with, we want to amend the article, amending Chapter 78. Then also we want to submit a resolution to approve the village rehab temporary water policy. And then there's a copy of the actual policy and procedures to be voted on. And if you go through the particular ordinances, it indicates the changes, and the biggest change, and we talked to Mr. Finch about this, is that on the first line of the resolution, it says, effective whatever date, all Sauk Village rehab properties shall have a meter. Any investor who comes in and wants to do business with Sauk Village has to have a meter first. We still going with the $225 for the 30-day period, and according to Matt Burns, the original ordinance had to be amended, so he amended that, and also he gave us a copy of the policy. So everything's in place, what we've been asking for, and everything's in agreement. So if you got any questions, I'd like to open it up for discussion again, but everything's there in place to start the process.
Well, I have a question.
Okay.
An ordinance review, because when this first came before us, ordinance review, when it came to the ordinance, said we did not want anything changed. Now I see everything's deleted out of it. Okay, so now you have a resolution that you're gonna adopt policy and procedure. Now, one of the things when I talked to Mr. Finch, in the ordinance, we agreed at that time that it should say that they have to own a meter. Okay, they have to purchase a meter to get the rehab water, because that way they could track it. But looking at this, everything is completely in this ordinance is completely X'd out. So it's almost like this ordinance doesn't exist, that everything's being taken out of it. Now, your policy and procedure is one thing, but this ordinance should read exactly how it is, except add the meter. That we should add the meter in the ordinance.
So you want to add that particular language to the ordinance, and everything else is fine?
Well, I have to go through it. I mean, we just got this tonight.
Okay, well,
So I'm
okay.
having an ordinance review meeting, and I can bring it before them. But to take this ordinance and remove everything from it, when it only, I would say, needs the language of that you have to have a meter. They have to purchase a meter. Now, I see that you have the cost of the meter. Now, I know there's two different costs for meters. So it's $200. Has that
Yeah.
been verified? Because I know that
That's
there's,
been verified. by
yeah,
the
there's
Public
two
Works.
different amounts.
Well, it has been verified by the Public Works, and also I could get the attorney, Matt Burns, to add that one line to the ordinance to mirror what's in the policy and procedures. Other than that, I don't see any changes unless anybody else
Well,
have any
I
changes.
have a question too. So
Okay.
I didn't get a chance to read this. Got this today, but on the third page where it says posting,
Which one are you looking at?
I'm looking at your resolution,
Okay.
Exhibit A. It says on the third page the posting of the revenue to the water account. So
Says water account on the
Yeah.
third page?
on the third page, the posting revenue to water account. So it says that all water rehab revenue received shall be deemed restricted and can only be used for water rehab. Like, what does that really mean? And then this number here, I'm assuming that's the GL code to, you know, when you post the water to. But what account is this?
Okay,
Is this a
the-
new
It starts
account?
with 300? Starts with 300?
Yes.
Okay, after talking to Mr. Finch, we had decided that, you know, once we tried to have separate line items for the water. Everything goes into the water department. So what's been happening is that certain parts of monies have been used specifically for rehab money. I mean, for rehab, you know, things. But what happens is that the money is taken and put in the general fund, and we actually don't have some kind of accounting on how many water meters we're paying for, you know, what funds are being used actually for rehab.
Wait, I just want to, before you say water fund goes to, water money goes to general
It's
fund,
general
that's
in
not
the
true.
water fund.
No, the water money that we receive, it goes to the water fund.
Yes.
It doesn't go to the general fund.
Right. Oh, I'm sorry, water fund.
So, I mean, so this is something I would like to talk to Mr. Finch about when he's available in front of us at a committee
I
meeting.
don't know where he went. He's
So maybe if we could put this on the next committee meeting agenda, because I think I get what you're trying to do, but at the end of the day, all water money is all water money. Like, to say that you can only use this for water rehab, like, what does that mean?
Well, all of it is water money, but we want to separate it and start keeping account of what's coming in and what's coming out, you know? That's the sole purpose of finding out how much money is allotted for, you know, rehab.
But what difference does it make? Like, it's all water money is all water money. Like, it shouldn't matter if it's water rehab or regular water or sewer. It's all water money.
Well, suppose I want to somebody want to make a report and say, well, okay, I can give you grant money or whatever based on the kind of money you got in for water rehab, okay? Or we going to bring in some meters. We want to know how many meters, how much meters are costing. Things like that we need to know. We want to separate that pot of money so we could report how much money is coming in that particular line item.
So yeah, I mean, I don't think it's necessary, but also you have to keep in mind that, you know, by separating this specific water rehab money, this is more work for the finance department to do, because I mean, it's not just posting to the water account, you're posting to a specific, it's another step for them. So, and that's something that, you know, his department is going to have to take on, and so I would like for him to discuss with us this on the next agenda, just so we get some clarity around it, because I mean, I think it's a great idea, and that we're charging for the meters now, but just this posting posting of the water account, I'm just a little curious about that. So if he can come talk to us before we decide to vote on this, that'd be great.
Okay, well, I'll get that information for you, why he wants to separate the voter count, because it, you know, it could be just taken out, as long as we, you know, get the water meters in there before residents or the investor starts work. So we need to know how much we paying for these water meters as they come in. But that's a question I'll put to Mr. Finch, and,
But I guess one more thing is to Trustee Todd's point. So
Okay,
the resolution, I mean, sorry, the ordinance, it's all marked, it's all like blanked out, right? It was all crossed out. Why can't we just add that language to the cost of the meter and making them required, and add that to this one instead of creating a whole new policy over here? All you have to do is add that language to the old one we already have. It's really no difference.
well, this is the way the attorney gave it to me, but I can ask him to add that one particular line to it, to the ordinance, and we could be done with that one.
So you're gonna ask, so are you gonna ask him to amend this ordinance and put that language in there?
Just add that one line to it.
Okay, so we don't need this one anymore.
Which one are you talking about?
The Exhibit A.
The what?
Exhibit A, the one that you provided, the resolution, the policy and procedures. Are you saying we don't need this anymore?
Well,
No, we're just gonna add it like, Exhibit A, we'll add the first line to the ordinance. So they can mirror each other, right?
see, the policy and procedure, by quickly going through it, like, we just got this, so I really wanted to go through and read it. But here it'll say the application and permit, hours of operation. You're not gonna find that in the ordinance itself. So they have to have some type of policy as to how they're establishing, you know, part of it I see in here is, part of it's in the ordinance, but the rest of it would not be. When I talked to Mr. Finch, the ordinance should read, if you wanted to read, that they have to purchase a meter.
Right.
Now, I know we talked about the cost of a meter. There's two different costs.
Right.
There's two different, I think one is like 175 and the other's,
I think
so
commercial.
I don't know what the difference is in the two, but there's a difference.
Right. Commercial.
So, yeah, there probably is. So you might want to look also at the cost of the meter. Here it says $200. Okay, I agree with the $50 administrative fee. I think that's how this ordinance reads, that we have an administrative fee. But our committee's going to meet on Monday, but before we have the attorney do anything, let our committee discuss it. But I think that what you need to add is that they have to purchase a meter. That's the bottom line. But your policy and procedure is listing your permit, things with outstanding balance, disconnection of service. So you're going to want that, but you also need this ordinance.
Gotcha. So what I would be in favor of, if we would add that language to the ordinance, and we can approve that, and we can vote on that actually possibly next week, because that's the only thing we're doing is adding that language that you have to purchase a meter. Then we can come back and talk about the policies and procedures behind it.
Well, I won't have the meeting till Monday. So
Okay.
you're not going to have, see, what I want to see is when we do these amendments, that it's in our packet, so you have the weekend to look. I don't want to give somebody something on Monday or Tuesday, and there you are trying to read it, like we're doing tonight. It gives us time to do it. So I would say wait till I have my meeting.
Sure.
We can then, you know, it's not like an emergency. This is still in place, this ordinance is. And then we can vote on it maybe at the end of the month. I mean, I want to make sure if it's amended, you see it before we vote on it.
And then also, I'd be just curious to know how many people actually come and ask for rehab water. I mean, 10 people a week, 20? I mean, I don't think we know that. So I think the front desk will have some better answers on how many people actually come and ask for rehab water, hopefully. They do?
All right.
Okay.
You keep saying purchase the meter. They own them? The
I
meter in my house, I own.
apologize. They have to
It's a
come
security
in.
deposit, right?
and-
It's just a
and
security
purchase.
deposit.
Well, I say purchase because they're going to have to pay.
All right.
They're not going to own it. They can't take it when they
Wait, they can't
leave.
take it with them.
No, no.
But they do, I mean, they probably do take it when they leave, but
I just want to keep it clear.
they'll take it when they leave, no, that's not good.
Okay, so you want to-
For clarity, we're gonna add the first line for the rehab to the ordinance to make sure that every investor or resident has a meter for the property. And secondly, we're gonna send it back to ordinance and To do what with it?
No, what we're gonna do is it's gonna come to ordinance review. You want, now, if I understand, trustee Grant, if you agree with that as well, we were talking about just adding the meter, just add that line.
Correct.
It's the first line.
That's in the ordinance.
But before I send it to the attorneys, let me go before the ordinance review.
It's already been at the attorney's.
It's gonna have to go back for them to amend this ordinance, because it's all crossed out. We're gonna have to add a line.
Right, yeah, all you have to do is just put in a line from the resolution. the first
Right, but I
line.
want it to come before the committee.
Okay, well, we could add that.
Yeah, okay, what she's trying to say is, when you change anything in this resolution, it should go before the
Ordinance review.
no, the attorneys first. So they can put the language in, then go before the ordinance review to make sure that it's, because the attorneys are gonna do the same thing, but you make sure that it's, you know,
Well, I want to bring it before the committee to say this is what they want to see. And
Correct.
before I send it off to the attorney saying, could you add that language? And then we say, no, that's not what we want. But however you want to do
so
it.
I say, so you want her to present you with the language she wants in there.
And according
And then you
to,
bring that to your ordinance review and
then send it off to the
send that
attorney.
off to the attorneys.
Wait a minute. This language has already been added per the attorney, okay? All we have to do is take that particular line item and add it to the ordinance. Why do we have to send it back? It's
Because-
already been added to,
Because trustee, here's the thing, by you just doing that, will it change the way the effect is going to be? And maybe you just cannot just insert certain words and think that's the way it is. There's a certain way, if that's the case, then you wouldn't use the lawyers to do anything when it comes to that. You can just copy paste, whatever it is that you want to change. You want to make sure that whatever language that you have is compatible. You don't want to just add 2 words and say, okay, let's do this. Those 2 words may keep you in court. So that's why she wants to review it. She's telling you to put in there what you would like to see. They review it, they send it on to the lawyers, and then she brings it back to the board.
but I also want to check with Mr. Finch, because $200.
To make sure that everything that
There's something with that too. I remember him saying there were 2 different
Well,
amounts.
there's 2 different, the meters are different. A commercial meter is a little bit different than a residential,
And it might
absolutely.
need to state that in here, because if you have a commercial doing a
Absolutely should.
rehab, and then you have a residential,
Right,
so
and
that I
then,
think,
and then commercial will say, well, you said $200.
Right.
correct. And they say they should have been charged $250.
Yeah, whatever it is.
But then if they're only supposed to be charged $175, and you charge them $200. So I think I want to talk to Mr. Finch, I'll come in this
Okay.
week. And
Okay.
you may have to put the 2, but then, I mean,
Well, then we'll wait until you guys bring it back. I mean, it's a good idea to start it off and to get it on board and get it started, and we can go from there.
okay.
Anything else, Trustee Brewer?
no, that's it.
Okay. Ordinance 17
Oh, I'm sorry, wait a minute, you didn't do the next one for me.
What next one?
Agenda
Oh, I'm
items,
sorry.
requests and
Agenda.
requirements.
Okay, agenda items and requirements. Requests and requirements, yeah.
Well, this is sort of redundant, and I'm picking back on what Trustee Williams was talking about earlier. It is a state statute that indicates that anytime you want something on the agenda, it has to, it can be brought to the, item can be brought to the agenda if we have 2 trustees. So I just want to put that on record. Also, the accounts payable report, I would like to see it back on the back table. There's no reason why we shouldn't have the accounts payable reports. We should be able to review what we're talking about, trustees are talking about. I don't know who made the decision to take it off the back table, but it should be put back there along with the agent report. We should get an agent report every 2 weeks related to the accounts payable. That way we could tell if something's way over 120 days or whatever. And those are items that should be on the back table, and also an agent report provided to the trustee, on a regular basis. I'd like to open up discussions for that, and any comments?
So I have a comment on the agent report. Well, actually, on the accounts payable too. So I think the reason why it was removed from the back before the vote happens is because sometimes we decided to remove items from the accounts payable. So therefore, if a resident gets a copy and they think this is going to be voted on and we take something off, then they have an incorrect copy. So therefore, I think the way it goes is the residents come the day after the meeting and get a corrected copy of the accounts payable with whatever changes we might have made that night before. And then in regards to the agent report, I would think the best thing to do is to ask for a copy of the agent report after we vote on accounts payable and pay those bills, because that would give you a better picture of how much we actually owe, because all of the bills that we owe and are going to vote on are going to be on the agent report, so it's going to seem a little higher than what it really is, because once we vote, it's going to come down a substantial amount of money. So I think that it's best to just ask for that after we vote on accounts payable.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes?
from what I've heard from most of the residents, the reason why they want the accounts payable on the back of the table before the meeting is because they feel it's their money. And if they have if they want something that they want to dispute or ask why is the village approving to have certain things paid, that's the only opportunity they have to do that is prior to the passage of accounts payable. So I understand that sometimes if we put accounts payable back there, everything on the accounts payable may not get approved, but if you just superimpose draft over the copy, it can't be used as if it's a final copy. This is something the residents have been asking for quite some time. I do know that it is available. I believe Mr. Finch makes it available at the front desk after the fact. But I think with the residents that are asking for this, they want it before the fact, in case they want to question. I'm just putting that on record. The board can choose to do what they want to do, but I understand the residents' concern. When I was a resident, I used to do the same thing. I looked at the accounts payable before the board approved it. Sometimes they have actually, pointed out some very significant questions prior to us passing the accounts payable. So I appreciate when they do have input. That's all I needed to say on that. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, to go on to again talk about the comment section, it should be separated.
Trustee, your part said request and requirements, agenda item request and requirements.
I'm finna tell you what I need, it should be required, the requirements. So I just need to explain to you what I'm talking about, okay? So anyway, the comment section, a lot of times trustees come up and we comment on certain items. However, during this time, we really don't get any documents until, like say for instance, I want to talk about the war or something like that. We don't get documents until like 5 minutes before or when we, day before. Instead of holding these documents, we should be able to get them as soon as possible. The documents, I know the village clerk strives for 10 o'clock the next day. A lot of times you don't get documents until the end of the day, end of Friday or something like that to have, and we never get a copy of the documents until right before we finna comment on something. I'm just saying we need to be more diligent in getting the supporting documents to the trustees so we can take a look at it. A lot of times we don't have these things. Accounts payable is one thing, agent report is one thing. Why should we have to sit there and wait, but we're gonna vote on them or we're gonna discuss them? We can't discuss things if we don't have supporting documents. That's what I'm saying. We take time and we're not getting the information. And yet somebody wants us to vote on them, but you don't have any supporting documents for it. So I'm just saying, if we're gonna work on something and we're gonna vote on it, we should get the supporting documents in a timely frame so we could discuss and work on it. Okay,
okay, stop, okay.
Excuse me, point of order.
Okay, first of all, as far as documents to trustees on time, if there's something that you see, you get the agenda, I think, by Friday. to find out what's going to be voted on the next Tuesday. If you have a question about it and you don't see the documentation, come up to Village Hall and ask to find out where it's at. I mean, a lot of times whoever's supposed to be doing the presentation hasn't turned in the documentation. That's very simple. Whoever's supposed to do, if someone is given a report and you got a question about it, they probably haven't turned it in yet. So that would be incumbent upon you to say, okay, I didn't get this. I didn't get this, and I need to see this. You got Friday, Monday, and then Tuesday before the meeting. So you have time to come and ask and say, okay, well, I want to look at this. I see, as I said before, I see a lot of times come in, and if there's something that you ask. And don't wait on somebody. You're not going to wait because of. Ask and say, I haven't received this, whatever it is, report or documentation that is about to be voted on. Can I see more into it? Can I see more input? Or can I see more documentation in regard to that? But to say it's not happening, okay, a lot of things don't happen. So, but if you just sit there and wait for somebody to put it in your box or whatever, a lot of times that doesn't happen. So if you that, you know, if you really want to see it, it would be say, okay, I need to see this. That's all. That's not hard to do.
Only thing I was saying, Mr. Mayor, is that we should do our due diligence and try to get more information. Believe me, I am one of these trustees that ask for stuff all the time. You know, we can't get that information, and you know it. So I'm just saying, we do. Okay. I know you don't know. Okay. But anyway, we make it our business to get information. You know, I have the floor.
I'm not worried about the floor. I'm not worried about the floor. Okay. But one thing is not going to happen tonight, trustee.
Well, we're not going to go back and forth. You finna go off.
We're not going to go back and forth with these innuendos.
We're going back and forth.
We're not going to keep doing that.
I'm talking to.
Because every time I say something, you say something else. We're not going to go back and forth with that.
Mr. Mayor,
we're supposed to
I'm
be
saying
business.
Mr. Mayor,
then why do I hear the
I'm
innuendo?
offering my comments, okay? I have the right to speak. I have the floor. And I would appreciate it if you stop interrupting me. This is my opinion.
But you, so okay, you didn't interrupt me.
Okay. All right.
Go ahead, finish up, trustee Brewer.
And if, village clerk's not giving you information.
See, there we go. There we go. Finish what you have to say. Finish what you have to say.
There we go. Where we going?
Are you through with your report?
I'm finished with my comment.
Okay. Ordinance 17-006, Gary Bell. Trustee Gary Bell.
Thank you, Mayor. I've been just looking here, and we're still waiting on a sign to be erected or what are you going to print it for Trustee Williams and Trustee Schultz. That was approved the day you guys took office. Your first term, the first part of your term. So going on 3 years now, they're still not put up. And then I've been compiling a list of others between appointed and volunteers over 30 plus years now. And I'm just, I mean, would it be suitable for me? Do you want a paper written on each person, or can I compile them all together and go out and collect this amount of signatures that you need? Because half the people in town don't know who these people are anymore.
I mean, as far as you talk about something new now, as far as with the ones that were voted on, it's just a matter of purchasing those signs and having to put in the designated areas. And I do know which ones you're talking about. Now, as far as any new candidates, then yes, you would have to go through what this ordinance has on there.
Or can we amend the ordinance?
You can amend anything you want if that's what you want to do. I mean, if you want to amend that ordinance like Trustee Brewer is amending an ordinance, you want to do that and bring that before, and then put the language in and have the board vote on it, yes or no. That's the procedure to do that. It's not saying that nothing can. That's what they call an amendment. Nothing cannot be amended if it's amended with the majority.
Right, because most of it,
right?
There's not a whole lot on here for people who have volunteered or worked for the village for 30 plus years or whatever.
Well, if you want to do that, I mean, like I said, if you want to amend that and champion that, then yeah, come up with what, and put into the language how you want it to be, and what new requirements, bring it before the ordinance review committee, and then after that, they can put it in a ordinance form, and then have it be voted on. So you have to do, you got to start first, they got to do is start with how you want to change it, you know?
Right. Just running through my head. There's a, like for the former fire chief, you know, I mean, I'd like to see stuff like that sooner than later.
Okay.
You know,
Yeah, I understand. We had one time talking about putting the mayors in here, but that never
right.
happened.
Well, there used to be pictures of the mayors in the old place, the old.
Oh, well, I know, but I'm just saying, when this place first got built, it was talking about putting the pictures up
Right.
in here, and it never happened either, so that was something to work on. Yeah.
All right, well, for now, I'm gonna have to let this sit for now.
No, I'm just saying, you can, I mean, the other part, like I stated, was voted on, it's just a matter of having it has to be actually done. They have to buy those, or get those signs, and then put them, it'll go below.
All right, that order has to come from you, correct? That order has to come from you?
No, it has to, no, not necessarily, I mean, it is in there, they just haven't done it. They just haven't done it yet, so it has to be purchased. Yeah, that's not a problem. I'm trying to think, was one of them purchased? I think one was given out to somebody. I think one was, but it just wasn't purchased. I mean, I'm sorry, it just wasn't put up there, so I can check on that and find out. I'll have the village administrator to check with the public works.
All right, I can get with trustee Todd, we'll put language together.
Well, yeah, you're talking about two different things. You're talking about getting the sign put on. You're talking about having the ordinance changed, yes.
Well, yeah, we need, the two that are already approved need to be done.
Yeah.
And, you know, old retired police officers and all that stuff. That's the way, you know, they serve their time.
Well, you're gonna have, what you have to do is look at this ordinance, and it talks about elected officials. Okay, that's what it's talking about. So when you're wanting to do an amendment, you want to include other things. I see in this ordinance that if they want to have, it looks like a sign, they have to have 50 signatures from residents. And sometimes as time is going on, some of the people that you want to honor, you may have residents don't even know who they are. So you may want to look at changing some of the language, but it sounds like you also want to add to this, because this is for elected officials. So we could, you know, come up with something, and we'll go before, you know, the ordinance review, and I'll work on it with you if you'd like.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes?
the ordinance that trustee Bell pulled out of the front office for 17-006 is not the ordinance that's online and the one that was approved. I have a copy of the one that's actually online. The one that he pulled, he said you got that out of the front desk, right?
No, you're saying the one that was not approved, which one was?
The one, 17-006 was approved the night of the transition between the old board and the new board. The actual copy of the correct ordinance
Wait a minute.
is online.
Wait a minute, you're saying that this ordinance 006 was,
This isn't correct.
okay, so you're
The
saying.
one that's filed in the front is not correct. I'm going to pass this down. That's the ordinance that was printed offline. That's the actual ordinance. The one that trustee Bell has doesn't have a signature page. And
Right, this doesn't have a signature page.
but this one is the one online. That was the last ordinance that was approved by the old board as they transitioned to the new board. And I just printed it out so that you can see. That's the one that should be up front. Just pointing it out.
Yeah, this would have been in May. It would have been May when it was.
The one I printed off is the one that's in the file.
But you know,
Hold on, with this second.
just so that we can have an understanding, this could have taken place in 2017, at the time that Derek, Kevin Jones, Myers, we can't hear you. When ordinances are amended or whatever, even though this one was from 2017, it does not get tossed away. So when the former village clerk cabinet for 2017, okay? So that's there. What year is that one? Isn't that one 2000?
17.
But what number?
number 006.
They're both 006?
Yes.
So then I don't know what happened because I wasn't village clerk then.
Yes,
Okay,
when
well,
I was the village clerk, there's the copy that trustee Bell has, there's a page attached to
Okay.
the end that I did not put on there. I don't know how that one got in the
Okay,
file either.
this seems to be the same ordinance, and the one that was actually signed, or well, this is not signed, but was actually voted on, has everything the other one does have, except this signature page is not on here. And also the certification page is not on the one we were just handed, but it's on this one you just told, you just
That's
gave
all I
me.
was saying, yes.
So, but in essence, it's the same ordinance. So it's just, this one here has something that the clerk would keep in her records for
No, that
most.
very last page does not go with that ordinance at all. The very last page on what trustee Gary Bell gave out was a copy of the template for the motions that I provided you guys for when you need to submit a motion. So that has nothing to do with that ordinance. Just remove it.
Okay, but what you stated was, if you, like you said, if you want to change or you want to amend, you know how to do that. Okay.
He doesn't give you my pages.
Is there anything else, Trustee Bill?
He just-
Okay. Public comment? Right. Yeah, let me get you a microphone, I'm so sorry. Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. Did you do me a favor, press this little button down there, press it till it turns green. Okay.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. My name is Dion Miller. I am here. Okay, I'm sorry. Can you hear me now?
Much better. Thank you.
Good afternoon, evening. My name is Dion Miller. I'm here as an employee of the Nancy McConaughey Public Library. Just as soon as yesterday, I started a position there as the programming liaison. Tonight, I was sent here to represent the library, just as a person of inclusion, most certainly diversity. We have a lot of new programs that are coming up in the library, and we are really wanting to engage the community and get everyone involved. So I'm here tonight just to welcome the Sauk Village residents to the library. At this current time, we do align ourselves with the Public Events Committee. Just with, right now, they have their Valentine's for Veterans. We're collecting those there at the library. There's also an opportunity to fill one out here at Village Hall. So most definitely just introducing myself, making everyone in Sauk Village aware that there is an engagement of programming that is going on at the library, and we do want people to feel welcome. I can tell you for myself, I'm the person who are putting together these programs, so my programs are very diverse, and most certainly I'm all about inclusion, and that's including everyone in the village. And I was welcomed here, so I thank you for welcoming me to the village, and as you guys can see, there was an opportunity there for me that I think is a great enhancement to Sauk Village. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is that library location on Jet?
Yes.
Judy Cast here. I wanted to comment on the accounts payable discussion, and I don't know how anybody else feels about it, but our group is all together. We're not stupid. We know that if you decide you're not going to pay something for whatever reason it may be, we could make our own notes on there. We don't need you to pull it and then fix it and give it, and then tomorrow you run in and get it. We don't have the time for that. And in all the years that I've been in this village, which is over 50, the accounts payable was never of that great a concern as to the village residents seeing that there's something going on or not. Trustee Williams is correct. We want to see it because we want to see it before it's voted on so that we could comment on it, and we have commented on it multiple times. Why are you paying out this when you haven't done that? Accounts payable is important to us. It's part of what we've been fighting for. It's part of the reasoning for the forensic audit. Things aren't right. Things are getting hidden. And then all of a sudden you swipe accounts payable from us. But the reasoning behind why you're swiping it from us doesn't add up. Things have been changed on the accounts payable year after year after year after year. It never caused a problem. Why would it now? It needs to be put on the agenda, and it needs to come back the way it was.
Barbara Stearns. I'm here once again with some questions about our village marquee. When I brought this up last time, you did bring it to my attention that your town hall meeting sign was taken down so they could put up something about Santa Claus. In January, once again, your town hall meeting was put up for the meeting on January 15th. Here's a picture that just went on Facebook. That's still up on the marquee, and this is February. Last time I brought it up, your reply answered something to the effect Public Works didn't have time to go up there and change it. My husband worked Public Works about 35 years. If you told them to change it, they would change it. The opinion in the village right now is you're using this for your political gain, so for your next election. This needs to be for everything in town. And if you look at the number of people that come to meetings anymore, you can count it on two hands usually. How about using the marquee to let people know when the board meetings and the committee meetings are? Not everyone in this village is on Facebook. I've talked to people that didn't know the meetings were here. They didn't know they happened. They don't go on Facebook. They don't do social media at all. So how about using a village sign to inform people about village meetings? Then maybe more people could come up and see and hear the truth, and not just the BS that Mr. Wizawati and Mr. LaRock like to put up with their lies. Let people know that you're here so they can come see for themselves.
Pat Couch. My first comment is regarding the agenda. I noticed on the agenda every item, forensic audit, Director Finch, standing committees, Clerk Marva Pruitt, abandoned vacant houses, Director Tanya McCoy, review, Code Red, Trustee Debbie Williams, on and on, down to the last one about the ordinance 17-006, Gary Bell. I think he's still a trustee. Did we forget about that? That's one thing. This past week, I went on Sunday night looking for the agenda. I always go to the website to look for the agenda. Several times I went to the agenda and it was blank. There were two postings, one for the special and one for the second early meeting, but our regular agenda was nowhere to be found. It was all blank. Now, I don't know when it was ever changed because I got tired of looking, but I wish it would be up there so the people that do look at the website can see that agenda. And forensic audit, dear Lord, yes, we need it. Get it done. Thank you.
Heidi Parker. I wanted to talk about Code Red. I think it's important to get the department heads to send out, notify Code Red about what's going on if there are emergencies. But how many residents are actually on their program? Is it really worth it to pay that money when only a small number are part of that? Thank you.
Rico Brown. I've been living on,
You have to speak up, please.
Rico Brown. I've been living on 217, 218 Peterson Avenue for the last 3 years. And it's, the whole block is filled with trash, people moving out, and the representative on that block, I think her name is Sue, she rides up and down that block every day, and all that trash makes it look like a junkyard, like Sanford and Son. I mean, from between Carroll and Peterson, the whole place looks terrible. I mean, I'm just scared for my church members to come over and visit. The church comes and pick me up every Sunday, and they was like, why they got all this trash? People move out. It's been there for like 6 months. I mean, just total trash. I mean, it's terrible. That's a problem. And I think it should be addressed, definitely. That's 217 and 218 Peterson Avenue. And Sue is representative. She rides up and down that block every day, and she does nothing about it.
Good evening, board members, trustees, Mr. Mayor. Arnold Coleman here. I'm revisiting an issue that I brought forth to the board about 4 months ago, and it's regarding the lights, the street lights on Jeffrey Avenue. Those very same 4 street lights that I was talking about then are still in the same condition they're in. One thing that's one of my greatest concerns is that the light post which was knocked down has not been replaced, which is at an intersection right next to the library, where the children, should they want to go there to study, to go on the internet, their safety is being jeopardized by it being poorly lit in that area. Now again, it's been 4 months since I visited this issue, and you know, what is this, Public Works? Okay, Mr. Mayor, you know, nothing's been done basically. 4 months. And again, this is a very, to me, this is something that should be of great concern to the community or to the village at large, because again, children are coming to and from that library right there, and that area is poorly lit. Anything could happen to those kids, okay? So if we don't want to do it for the residents, at least consider the kids. Get somebody out there to put, I mean, 2 of those lights that are out are just light bulbs. 4 months, and the light bulbs have not been replaced. Then then another one, the lamp is completely knocked off the pole. You can replace that at the same time. And the no cost, you want to take your time and put a new pole in, okay. But Public Works needs to get on the job. It's been 4 months. And these are just light bulbs. These are not fire hydrants where you have to dig up or anything. These are, I mean, how often do you, how often or how long should it take for you to change a light bulb? 4 months. Public Works. Who's the director? Who's the trustee? It's been 4 months. Thank you.
Frank Williams. I think I heard us say that it costs $30,000 to tear down a house. What if the house is not worth $30,000, or can I or anybody get a private demolition permit to tear it down for me? So can I meet with the person that made that statement today and ask her how do we go about doing that? And the second thing is that I know a lot of people in this audience, in the audience here, hear Bernice talking, but I've been knowing Bernice for 12 years, ever since I know Bernice about money. She wants to know where every dime in this village is. That's been her thing, ever since I know her. Show me where the money, show the resident where the money. Don't hide it, show it to her. So it's nothing personal with her, but that's just the way she is. And the rest of the board, you guys gotta step up here and let's get busy. We got a lot of work to do, and I know we do. But all you have to do is sit down and let's do it. And there's another thing. There's an old cliche said, things I used to do, boy, you can't do them no more.
Excuse me, he said that it costs $30,000, she said it costs $30,000 to tear down a house or demolition of a house. Half of the houses that's out here that need to be demolished, you can get it for $20,000. Now that's big difference.
Sir, I'm trying not to say anything, but usually when you say what you had to say, we don't yell out at the, but you had your 3 minutes, or did you have time left? But if you want to hear the answer, sir, I will be answering those questions in a few minutes. As soon as everyone gets through. Is there anybody else coming up? Okay. First of all, I'd like to say congratulations to the person that is now working in the library as a program director. Congratulations. Thank you very much. I've been getting correspondence, and hopefully, we can go back and forth. And as you stated, the person that does the correspondence here in the village is also Debbie Williams, so Trustee Debbie Williams. So she, works at the library too. So that's a good fit. The accounts payable is usually on the back, but as I was told today, sometimes it's not on the back, and we're going to start trying to see if we can put a draft on the back. So I don't want someone coming back later and say, well, you paid this, then I find out it hasn't been paid. So what we're going to try to do is have drafts put on there. So if it's a draft, that's exactly what it means. Doesn't mean that it's cut in stone, but we can see if we can get back to getting that done. And then, because you do vote, we do vote on it on board meeting after the comments from the board. From the public comments. So you get a chance to ask those questions before they get, that's why it's not public comment on the board time is not at the very end. We have comments at the beginning because we have the department heads here, and quite naturally other things that are going to be voted on. You have a chance to weigh in on those things at that time. As far as the village sign, still having the town hall meeting up, if there's something that's on there, and okay, fine, it's not a problem. I don't know. I'm not going to even try to get into this little political thing, but if there's nothing up there, you're right. We could put on there, have a great day, or whatever, have a nice day, or be careful, or whatever the case may be. It just so happens that it stayed up there all that time. It wasn't up there on purpose. I really will tell you that. But, only thing I can say is that yes, we can put other things on there. If other things are going on, we get someone to submit. And but there's certain things we don't do on the board, quite naturally. But other things, if it's a village-related entity, yes, we put it up. When it came up, if something comes up, you better believe that one of the trustees wants to put something up there, and it's village-related. They fill out the paperwork and they put it in. sorry that the website was not on, the agenda was not on the website, but we got to work on that too with the person that does the website at the time. So I cannot speak for that person, but the only thing I can say is I will get back to that person and let them know that that we need to be more due diligent of getting the website updated weekly, not monthly. Peterson Avenue and the trash in that block. I appreciate that gentleman saying that because I ride around and I have brought that to the attention of the people, the department heads and that's involved in that and the department that's involved in that. It's a shame that that's like that. We clean it up and then they put it back out there like we're their personal garbage collectors or whatever, but that happens. That's been going on since I've been out here. As soon as you clean it up, you're hoping that they stop doing it. They look at it, oh, they clean it up this time. I'll throw something else out there, maybe they'll get that too. And that happens not just on Peterson, but everywhere else. But Peterson more so because you got people that, some of these homes that are squatting. And we just got to talking about $30,000 to demolish a home. Yes, we got a lot of things involved in that. And you're right, but you cannot, and this goes to the other question. You can't, as a private citizen, go and demolish a house. Please don't try to do that. Please don't even think about doing that, because you will be arrested. So I'm just hoping that nobody tries to say, well, okay, it's next to me, let me knock it down. Don't do that. It has to go through a proper chain. It has to be inspected. It has to be baited. There's a lot of things involved, and that's where the price goes. So I don't want to see anyone, I hear fires that are going on at an abandoned building and someone took matters in their own hands. Please don't do that, because we never know who's watching. So we're trying to get to as many as we can. There's a lot of things that go into it. I hate to demolish something that may be able to be saved, but once you demolish it, there's no coming back. So right now we're trying to, and you can see why we cannot do a whole lot of it because it costs that much. It costs a lot, so we're going to do so many, but believe me, please don't try to go and take it into your own matters and then say, okay, well, the house, I don't like it, and I want to, because it may backfire. You set it on fire, it may set yours on fire. So please don't try that. The street lights, again, I'm going to bring it to the department head and let them know that this is something that's ongoing. The residents they're asking questions about it. And I have submitted some things to him already that some of the residents have asked and emailed me and left messages at the front. So I forward those to those departments when I do get those questions and let those departments know. And also the village manager, he gets a copy of it. And he can see it for himself that people are concerned. It makes sense. You don't want to live next to problem areas. Nobody does. That being said, I will go with questions and comments from trustees. Trustee Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I would like to thank the program liaison at the McConaughey Public Library and welcome her to the community. I've had the pleasure of working with her on a couple events already, and I'm really looking forward to future events collaborating with the library. We have a lot planned individually and collectively. And Mr. Coleman's concerned about those lights. I pass by those same streets myself very often, and I was wondering if we can get Mr. Weller to include that in his report next week. I'd like to know what instructions he's been given. Has he been given to do anything to that street yet? And if not, somebody needs to give him some direction, because that should be taken care of. And as stated earlier, the Valentines for Veteran program is going on for another week. We have several Valentines at both the library and the Village Hall, and we're trying to get at least 200 cards filled out. You can fill out more than one. You can take a few home if you have to. There's hundreds available. And trying to get them back in my hands by February 11th. We'd like to get as many cards to the veterans as possible and show them our love and appreciation at this particular Valentine's Day. And the last part of my report, I'm hoping that I can get through this report without being interrupted and called out. Because apparently this is the thing lately. It's whenever I say something, it comes out and it's totally different. I just want to go on record as saying is the reason why I do not go into some people's offices to discuss business is because of exactly what happens here tonight. Everything I say gets misconstrued or mishandled. I have a chain of emails. I have it in writing, actually, that when the clerk asked for the items to go on the agenda, I sent my request at 9:21 on January 31st to the clerk, and at 9:58, I received an email from the clerk saying Mayor Burgess stated that the employee handbook is not under the purview of the trustees. It has been stricken from the agenda. Please communicate with the village administrator, Chris, and him directly. Now that was at 9:58. At 10:10, I sent an email to the village clerk, the mayor, and the village administrator. I disagree. All policies and procedures are to be approved by the board. If the mayor refuses to acknowledge my request, I will follow up in another way. This is on paper. Something like this that would take place in someone's office, I can't confirm or deny. On paper, I can confirm it. All I'm asking is, we could really work harder to get along if we didn't keep trying to one-up each other. I just wanted something on the agenda, and I wanted to know what the process is. And the process is, if two trustees want something on the agenda, it should be on the agenda. And the mayor was copied on all of this email train. So I think he was aware of the fact that there was an item on there. I'm not trying to argue with you, Mr. Mayor, and I don't like it when it happens on Tuesday nights. And I really wish that we had a better relationship, but it's never going to heal if this continues. But I do have the emails. I don't have to lie. That's why I do everything on paper. Thank you very much.
Trustee Bell?
My committee is the Public Safety Committee, and our meeting will be on February the 18th, 11 a.m. right here in the Rotunda. Myself and the fire chief are working with the DNR, trying to get us a generator to power the back building, community center, and possibly even if it's big enough to power this building during disaster. So we have a place to store bodies, people. If you're displaced, you'll have a place to go. Stay warm, stay cold. And right now, that's our biggest concern is a generator to power the two buildings. That's what we're gunning for. The Department of Natural Resources has a surplus from there and from overseas, from the military, from various countries. And one day next week, we're taking a ride out to Oswego to look at some of them to see what we qualify for. And that will conclude my report.
Trustee Grant?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I do know that I owe Linda Trustee Todd some language for those ordinances that we talked about 2 weeks ago. And if you could still send me your comments, the whole board, for the finance policy by this Friday. I didn't receive anything, so I'm not sure if there's any questions or you guys just haven't sent them. But could you send it by this Friday, please? Because I'd like to place it back on the agenda in 2 weeks so that we can discuss again. And that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Trustee Jazinski?
Thank you, Mr.
You gotta push it. Did you push it? Button. There's a button on it. There you go.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Housing Committee is tentatively going to meet on February 19th. We're going to review the scope of work for what's required for people to pass inspections. Once that gets completed and I type that up, I will give it to Ms. McCoy for her input if she wants to add anything or take something out. The current one that's in place is redundant. There's like 64 items on it, and it's the same stuff over and over again. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Trustee Brewer?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a couple items. I want to respond to the situation about the street lights. Now, I'm aware of the street lights that's out of service around the library. Now, that has been on Public Works list for quite a while. We have one pole that was hit the second time, so that's why that pole is down. And there's a wiring program problem with those two particular street poles, but Kevin is working on it. I know it's taken a while, but it has been brought to Public Works attention, and he's working on it. Trustees can only send the information to the Public Works person so he could work on it, but he's actually working on that particular area, and I'm quite sure you know, as you reported before, that that information has been sent to Public Works, and they're working on it just to give him that information. Now, the other thing I want to talk about is that our primary job as trustees is to follow the money, okay? Since I've been in office, there has been so much lack of transparency here that we don't have a handle on what's supposed to be going on. Our only goal and our permanent goal and what we were elected for is to follow the money. All this extra committee stuff, yes, it's all good and that's what you're supposed to do, but our primary job, when you get up and every trustee has a thing that they have to do, is to know where the money is. And if we don't have documentation, we don't know where the money is. There's questions that we need to be asked. We have been going on and round in this circle to find out just where money is, that our tax dollars and how it's being used. We should know that. When you wake up in the morning, you should know that $50,000 was taken out of something to be paid from the water fund. That stuff, we should know that's what we were elected for. That has not been done. The second thing I want to talk about is the settlement agreement. This is all about transparency. You as a resident have the right to know what's happening with your tax dollars. You have a federal, state, and South Village code that that government officials have to adhere to, that we have to know where this money is. When you guys ask a question, we should be able to give you some kind of answer about your tax dollars. I hope that these government officials here that were elected by the people will be able to follow the law, since we are now in this settlement agreement and we should get information accordingly. But we'll see. We're striving for open and honest government. And what we're trying to achieve, we can't do it without documentation. We don't want to hear, I can't get the reports, I don't want to hear. If you spend $5 of my money, of your money, you want to know where it's coming from. And that's what we're entitled to. And with my closing line is, every trustee up here should be following the money. That's our only goal. If you don't do anything with these committees, our goal as elected, as residents of Sauk Village, is to find out where your money is. And that's the end of my report.
Trustee Todd.
Ordinance Review Committee will meet on February 10th at 6 p.m. here in the Rotunda. And we're going to be discussing the hiring and the spending freeze ordinance. So if you could get that information to me before Monday, so that I could present it to my committee. So if you have any comments, and we will also be taking care of this rehab. The other thing that was brought to my attention with false alarms, there's an issue that has come up that when the fire department has responded, they've responded to a fire alarm. It's happened, I think, 3 times where the residents refused to let the fire department in. So we have to put something in that ordinance. We're going to discuss it on that Monday. And there was also a business, the same thing, refused to let the fire department in. So I think we're going to need to add some language to the false alarm, because if they're refusing to let these, the fire department in, what is the liability on the village if a fire broke out and they refuse to let them in? So that's one of the things we are going to be discussing. And so that ends my report.
Thank you. I have matter of fact, the only thing I have to say is, I'm hoping that, and I've said this so many times, that we can conduct business as business, keep the personalities, the personalizations, the name calling, all these innuendos out of conducting a meeting. These are business meetings. If you came here to see a show, it shouldn't be that you can, because in that case, we can sell popcorn. But you came here to hear your business dollars at work, wherever it may be, whatever you're spending, because every single dollar that you voted is your dollar that came out accounts payable. There's no tree back there that the village has and they grow money. So this is what it should be. It should be kept on that level, not personalizations, not because I don't like him or he looked at me wrong or you. That's not what this is for. And I'll state it again. I'm here. And if you feel that you don't want to talk to me, okay, fine. I'm fine. But to keep saying that I can't do this because you are happy, this is a personal thing, I'm sorry. This is a business. And if we don't run this as a business, it's gonna fall. And we have ran it as a business. That's why we have money to go out and do other things with, forensic audit or whatever else it is. Because there used to be a time where we had to figure out how we're gonna pay payroll. We had to take money out of wherever we could get it from. So we're trying to run this bill fiscally responsible, trying to run it in a green, in a black level instead of in the red. And we can't do that with back and forth. We have to come together. If we don't come together for nothing else, we need to come together for the common good of this village. Simple as that. All that other stuff, we don't even need to bring that up. And then when we start disrespecting one another, it gets to the point where now you got yelling, you got I'm going to get up and leave and all this because the cat can't get this or whatever. This is business. I'm sure you don't go to wherever it is that you go and conduct business, and if they don't say something that you like, you're going to get mad and walk out. They say, okay, fine. So that being said, I'll accept the motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
It was moved by, I guess, Trustee Brewer, second by Trustee Bell. All in favor?
Aye.
Good night.